welcome to the final battle in the Vengeance campaign. This is battle number 5. We're playing a deployment frontline assault, Maelstrom of War mission. This one, it's deadlock. We've got 6 objective markers on the table. I can't speak today. Number 2, number 3, 5, 6, 1 and 4. We will be using tactical objective cards. The mission rules for this mission are that you draw 6 in the first turn, and then you have to have 5 in the second turn, 4 in the third turn, 3 in the fourth turn, etc. If you have too many, you have to discard. If you don't have enough, you have to draw more for each turn. Random battle length, so end of turn 5 we'll roll for turn 6, and then at the end of turn 6, if we make it into turn 6, we'll roll for turn 7. And then the mission rules for this mission are strategic deadlock, which basically means from the start of the 3rd battle round, the command point cost of all stratagems is doubled. We'll go and have a look at the armies in a second. Deployment zones are set up with the 3 with the red dice, so you can see we've got this side of the board from here expands out to this one at the very front, and then back in again across here. Same on the other side. There's 18 inches between the 2 centre points, so from here to here is 18 inches. Across into the corner, that bit there is 6 inches, so 6 inches there up to this gap, which is 18 inches between the 2 front points of each deployment zone. So let's go and have a look at the armies. This is the Orc army. This is 1360 points. Special rules apply. We'll talk about those in a minute. So we've got a Vanguard detachment, which is here. This is Snotgit, Flemtooth, and 3 5-man squads of Knobs. We've then got a battalion detachment, which is here. So we've got Gurghal, Waazghkil, Bogrot, Scartooth, who is the big mech with shock attack gun, and then 30 boys with a boss and a big shooter. And then we've got a patrol detachment, which is here. So we've got the pain boy. This guy on the right is proxying as a weird boy. Squad of 20 boys with boss and big shooter. Squad of 20 Gretchen. 2 killer cans over the back there, one with a rocket launcher, one with a big shooter, and then the squad of warbikers. So that's the Orc army. Gurghal's warlord trait is might is right, so that gives him +1 to his strength and attacks in hand-to-hand combat. The clan culture is Bad Moons armed to the teeth, so they get to re-roll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase. Extra gubbins for the war boss is the Killer Claw, which is a melee weapon, strength ×2, -3 AP for 3 damage. Can re-roll wound rolls for attacks made with that weapon. Units destroyed may return from turn 2 onwards on a D6 roll of a 4+. They must be deployed within the Orc deployment zone and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. And each of the war bosses can choose to expend 2 command points in each psychic phase in order to cast Smite. That's again a local special rule, so yes, we've got the Psyker, but we've also got that additional ability. The Orcs have 9 command points in total. Now they do also have Disizar's Zogoth, which is a rule which says that troops that control objectives, they control the objective even if the enemy has more models within range. Now if you set that against Space Marines, they have Defenders of Humanity, which is exactly the same rule, so that cancels it out, so it'll just be most models within 3 inches. So that's the Orc army. Going to look at the Space Marines next. Is the Space Marine army. So we're looking at the commander, Aldous Priamus, on the left, who is a captain in Terminator armour, and his second, who is a Terminator chaplain. They are in a battalion with the 3 5-man tactical squads, chainsword on the sergeant and flamer, and those 3 squads are riding in 3 rhinos, which are just over the back there. And then we've got another battalion just here, which is the one of the Primaris lieutenants with a Primaris librarian, 2 intercessor squads and 1 scout squad. We've then got a spearhead, which is captain in Gravis armour, 1 squad of Hellblasters in the middle there, and then 2 squads of Devastators. One on the left has a sergeant with a lightning claw and a flamer, and the one on the right has no sergeant. And then we've also got a vanguard detachment, which is this one, which is a librarian terminator, the other Primaris lieutenant, Primaris ancient, squad of reavers, squad of terminators, and then the 2 dreadnoughts over the back there, one with heavy bolter and one with flamer. Both have las cannons. So that's the Space Marine army. Warlord trait for the Warlord is Champion of Humanity. So he has +1 to all hit and wound rolls in the fight phase versus enemy characters. He also has the Burning Blade as his relic, which is a melee weapon. +2 strength, -5 AP for 1 damage. Chapter tactic, because we're counting these as a successor chapter of the White Scars. The Devastators here sport White Scar shoulder pads. What's wrong with my voice? Shoulder pads. That gives them the Lightning Assault chapter tactic, which is +2 inches to advance moves, and they can still charge in a turn where they fell back. Looking at a total of, let me just check, 16 command points. So 16 command point total for this army. That's the Space Marines. Let's have a look at deployment next. So deployment is now complete. It's just a quick overview of the battlefield. So we'll start with the Orcs first. So war bikes on the right flank, squad of 20 boys and a pain boy, the weird boy and the shock attack gun, Gurghal and 30 boys, the other war boss and 3 5-man knob squads, 20 Gretchen and 2 killer cans over on the left. And for the Space Marines, we have Devastators and Hellblasters, snipers up in the building, 5-man squad and a rhino, teleport homer for the Terminators, 2 Primaris lieutenants, Primaris Psyker and Primaris Ancient with 1 dreadnought, Devastators with Gravis Captain, another 5-man squad and a rhino, then Intercessors, another dreadnought, and then the other 5-man squad in the rhino over on the very right hand flank. In terms of deep striking, we've got the Reavers on the grav shoots, the 5-man Terminator squad, and then the Terminator command, all in deep strike, so coming on from turn 2. So that is deployment. Going to roll for first turn. So the Orcs finish deploying first. Space Marines want to try and seize, and they do. So Space Marines turn 1. So before I forget, we've just drawn 6 tactical objectives for each side. So the Orcs have got secure 1, 2 and 3. They've also got here we go, wah, grab the loot and more speed, go faster. Stratagem pack is ready to go, and then psychic powers. The weird boy has smite and roar of Mork, as discussed earlier on. The 2 war bosses can cast a smite in each psychic phase for 2 command points. Stack of command points just there. And then for the Space Marines, their 6 cards are Lightning Strike, No Prisoners, Blood and Guts, Defend 6, Domination, and Witch Hunter. Again, stratagems ready to go. Then we've got Smite, but for the 2 Psychers, the Primaris Librarian has Veil of Time and Fury of the Ancients, and the Terminator Librarian has Psychic Fortress and Null Zone. So that's all the cards pulled and ready to go. Now moving into turn 1 for the Space Marines. So that's the end of the Space Marines movement phase for turn 1. So we've got a Rhino moved forwards its full move to here. The central area, we've got the Lieutenants, the Librarian, the Ancient, Gravis Captain, Dreadnought, and the other Rhino have moved forwards, as have the 2 Intercessor units on the far side there. And the Dreadnought and the 3rd Rhino have also just moved forwards to slightly better cover this flank. So that's it for movement. I'm going to do Psychic next. So that's the end of the Psychic phase for the Space Marines. The Primaris Librarian cast Smite on Gurghal, rolled a 6, so that went off. The Weird Boy, is too far away to deny. The Psyker then rolled a 6 for D3 mortal wounds, taking Gurghal down to 5. Then elected to cast Smite again, which went off on an 8, and rolled a 5, which again caused another 3 mortal wounds. So Gurghal is already down to 2 wounds remaining. That's the end of the Psychic phase. We're looking at the shooting phase for Space Marines next. So that's the end of the shooting phase for turn 1 for Space Marines. And the heavies over on this flank have managed to take out 1 of the war bikes. The Rhino, Stormbolter, has taken out 1 of these boys. Success of the game is the snipers, who managed to finish off Gurghal, who was on 2 wounds, so he is now off the table. The shock attack gun has been taken out by fire from the las cannons on the Dreadnought. And finally, over on this side, the las cannons on the 2nd Dreadnought took out 1 of the knobs, and the Stormbolter on the Rhino has taken out 2 of the Gretchen. So that's the end of the shooting phase for Space Marines. Looking at charges, there are no charges, so that is the end of Space Marines turn 1. So Orcs turn 1 is coming up next. So just a quick recap in terms of objectives for the Space Marines. So looking at what we've got here, we had Lightning Strike, which was score 1 victory point of at least 1 enemy unit that was entirely within the enemy deployment zone at the start of the turn was destroyed during this turn. So we destroyed the shock attack gun, which was within the Orc zone, so we scored that one. And No Prisoners, score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during your turn. If between 3 and 5 enemy units was destroyed during your turn, score D3 victory points instead, etc, etc. Now again, the shock attack gun was destroyed, so that's another victory point. So 2 victory points already for the Space Marines. Down to 4 cards at the end of this turn, so they'll be needing to get back up to 5 cards on the next turn. So that's it. Orcs turn 1 coming up. Right, so at the end of Orc shooting, pretty ineffective as you'd expect. Hitting on 5s upwards is not great. So these guys shot at the Devastators, scored hits but failed to wound. The boys just here, around 5 boys in range to shoot at the Rhino, managed to take a wound off. The boys in the middle here managed to take 1 wound off the Gravis Captain. That was 24 shots, only inflicted 1 wound. The knob's out of range, however, the war boss was in range to shoot at the intercessors, but failed to score any hits. And then over on the very left, the killer cans, one with a Dakar gun and one with a rocket launcher, again failed to score any hits on the Rhino. So orc shooting being what it is, that's pretty standard. So that's the end of that part of the game. So we're moving into the charge phase for the orcs. End of the orcs charge phase. Nothing going on over this side of the board. These guys are too far away. The boys in the middle here have made it into the Gravis captain. Lost nothing to Overwatch. So combat due to begin there imminently. And then over this side, the war bikes managed to make a successful charge. Again, lost nothing to Overwatch. And then the boys have charged in. But we're doing a bit of tactical objective holding here. So we've got a bit of a daisy chain going on. So that unit is now in combat as well. So that's it for charges. Fight phase coming up. Right, so end of the fight phase. What have we got? Managed to get another few wounds off the Rhino. No losses to the orcs on this combat. And then over in the middle, managed to take another wound off of the Gravis captain. However, he's dealt out 4 wounds in return and taken out 4 of the boys. So that squad is slowly but surely being whittled down. That's the end of combat for round 1 for the orcs. There's no morale. No losses grievous enough to warrant that at the moment. So let's have a look at stratagems. Tactical objectives, I should say. So number 1, secure objective number 1, score 1 victory point. If you control objective marker 1 at the end of your turn. So we've got that one there. Secure objective 2, same conditions apply. We've daisy chained onto that one there. So that's also been achieved. Objective 3, we haven't got that one. What else have we got? Score 1 victory point if 3 or more orc units from your army made a charge move this turn. Okay, so we had boys charged successfully, and then boys charged successfully, and the war bikes charged. So that's 3. So we've scored that one as well, which is another victory point. Grab the loot. Roll a d6 when this tactical objective is generated. Score 1 direct victory point if you control the objective marker corresponding to that d6 roll. So let's just do that now. Missed that one at the beginning. And it's number 1. So we've got that one as well. That's the one that's controlled by the Gretchen. And finally, more speed, go faster. Score 1 victory point if 3 or more orc units from your army advanced in your movement phase this turn. And again, they did. So we've advanced the boys in the middle. We advanced these boys. We advanced the war bikes. And we advanced these knobs. So that's another victory point for the orcs. So the orcs have 5 currently. As opposed to 3 for Space Marines, so orcs edging ahead. That's the end of the orc turn. So we're moving into Space Marines turn 2 coming up in a moment. Okay, so we've just drawn up to 5 tactical objectives. So this turn is 5, turn 3 will be 4, and we've just drawn this one. Score D3 victory points if your opponent's warlord has been destroyed during this or any previous turn. Now we have already done that, so let's just roll that now. D3, and we get 1. So that actually puts us on 4 for Space Marines. There we go. And we've still got Blood and Guts, which is score 1 victory point if any enemy unit was destroyed during the fight phase of this turn. Defend objective 6. Which is currently uncontested over in the middle there. Not sure that we can get to that one without dropping in a deep strike unit. We'll have a look at that shortly. Domination, score D3 plus 3 if you control every objective marker on the board. That will probably not happen this turn. And then Witch Hunter, score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy psyker was destroyed. So the enemy psyker is still on the building just over the back here. So again, deep strike, we may be able to get to that for the next turn. So that's where we're up to so far. So we're now moving into the movement phase for Space Marines. Okay, end of Space Marines movement phase. So we've got all of the reinforcements on the field. Rhino's disgorged its squad of Marines and moved into the gap in the corner here. The Marines have then moved forwards. Reavers have dropped in just over on this flank just to give a bit of support with their advance and attack rule for their combat knives. Intercessors have moved forwards to block this gap in the side of the building as the knobs press forwards. This Rhino has disgorged its squad and then fallen back. No movement here apart from this lieutenant who's jumped up into the building just to get better line of sight over towards the weird boy. This Rhino has fallen back but has not emptied itself, and the Terminator chaplain has dropped in just to the side here. The Terminator librarian has dropped in front of the heavies to give them some support now that the boys and the warbikes are free for targeting. And then Captain Aldous and his Terminator squad have deployed right over on the Orcs back line, 9 inches away from those boys and 9 inches away from the weird boy. So let's open things up a little bit. Just going to look at the psychic phase next, and then we'll be looking at shooting. Right, end of the psychic phase. So the Terminator librarian managed to take out one warbike and knock the other one, the boss, down to 1 wound. And then over in the centre here, we had a smite go off on the warboss, taking 2 wounds off, and then the Primaris librarian attempted to cast Veil of Time, which goes off on a 6 but rolled a 5, so no success on that roll. That's the end of psychic. It's now shooting for Space Marines. Right, end of the Space Marines shoot phase, and we have cleared out all of the boys and the pain boy from this area through fire from the heavies over on this flank, and the Stormbolter on the librarian, Stormbolter on the chaplain, and then fire coming through from the advanced deployed Terminators and Terminator captain through the gap in the wall there. So all of those boys are now gone. Over in the centre here, sniper being able to target characters, took a wound off here, and then the Primaris lieutenant, again character on character, took another wound off the weird boy. And that's pretty much about it. The intercessors managed to take out one of the knobs from this side, and the Rhino with its Stormbolter at half range took a wound off of this killer can. However, line of sight being what it is, there's some restricted view for a lot of these units. So that is the end of shooting, and now looking at the charge phase. Right, charge is over for the Space Marines. What we've done is we've charged in the 5-man Space Marine squad, and also the Primaris Ancient and this Lieutenant, but we've left the Primaris Psyker and the Dreadnought out of it, just to give us a little bit more mobile firepower and some psychic ability in the next turn. That's it, no more charges to declare. We were looking at this side, but actually figure that Stormbolter is likely to do more damage if charged by these killer cans, so we've left that Rhino where it is. So that's it for charges. Now it's the fight phase. Right, so end of the fight phase for Space Marines. As you can see, there's quite a few boys gone from this unit. There are 2 additional wounds off the Gravis Captain and 3 wounds off of the Primaris Ancient. The Space Marines are all still there, and the Lieutenant is still there.
Just going to consolidate these loose buoys just to get them back into some sort of formation, and then that'll be the end of the Space Marine's turn. Moving into the Orcs turn 2 next. So a quick run through tactical objectives for the end of Space Marine's turn number 2. Score 1 victory point if any enemy unit was destroyed during the fight phase. If 3 or more were destroyed during the fight phase, score D3 victory points. So we were going for it in the middle here, but we didn't quite do that. So that is not achieved. Defend objective 6, we didn't get anywhere near that one. Domination, score D3 plus 3 victory points if you control every objective marker. Again, didn't do that one. And Witch Hunter, score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy cycle is destroyed. Well, we've got 2 wounds off the Wid Boy, but that's as far as we've got. So no additional victory points this turn, so we're still on 4 currently. Moving into Orcs turn 2. So that's the end of the Orcs movement phase for turn number 2. Warboss and the Knobs have advanced to get into charge range of the intercessors. Gretchen have moved around the corner, so now we're in shooting range of the Reavers. Killer Cans have moved up to get into charge range here, and then we've got deployed back on the field the Warbikes down in this corner, and a squad of 20 boys just here with the Pain Boy attached. The shock attack gun and Gurghal failed their return rolls. So that's the end of movement for the Orcs. Now moving into the psychic phase. So that's the end of the psychic phase for the Orcs for turn 2. The Weird Boy has cast Smite onto the Warlord. That went off on a 9, caused D3 mortal wounds for 1 mortal wound, but then command point re-rolled it for 2 mortal wounds. And then cast Smite again, which went off on a 6. And caused 2 further mortal wounds on the Terminator squad, so one of those guys is now gone. So that's the end of the psychic phase. It's now the shooting phase for the Orcs. Right, end of the Orc shooting phase. These boys are out of range or out of line of sight of everything, so not able to shoot. The Knobs in the middle here scored hits but failed to wound, as did the Warboss. The Gretchen here managed to take out 1 of the Reavers, and the Killer Cans between them have managed to get a wound off of the Rhino. The Warbikes right at the back here scored hits but no wounds on the Rhino. That's the end of Orc shooting. Charge phase is next. Orcs turn 2 charge phase is complete. The Killer Cans have made it into the Rhino. Lost another wound off of the left-hand Killer Can from Overwatch. The Gretchen rolled 12 for their charge. Lost 1 to Overwatch on the way in. And then in the middle here, the Knobs and the Warboss are actually in combat, although it doesn't look like they've moved very much. Because of the terrain here, we're having to be a little bit kind of circumspect about who's in and who's not, but they're basically in combat. 1 wound caused on Overwatch, just on 1 at the back there. So that's going to be a bit complicated trying to sort that out, but we'll get onto that in a minute. So the other combat that we've got going into in a minute is this one here. So that is charges over, and moving into the Orcs turn 2 fight phase. Here we are at the end of the fight phase for the Orcs. In terms of combat in the centre, we've got 1 of the Knobs gone from here, but 4 intercessors out of this squad gone. No damage to the Reavers here, and a further 3 or 4 of the Gretchen now gone. No damage on either side over here. So we just need to resolve this combat in the middle. So we'll do the boys, the standard boys first. So there's 24 attacks in there, hitting on 3s. Okay. That was a 6. Okay, and then strength 4, toughness 4, so 4s to wound. It's a little bit light. So out of all of that, we've got 5 wounds, 3 up saves. Haven't actually decided where these attacks are going. So Primaris Ancient and 2 of the Standard Space Marines. So Standard Space Marines first. Okay, so there's 2 dead Space Marines, and then the Primaris Ancient. Okay, so that's 1 further wound, so he's dead as well. Okay, so that's 2 dead Space Marines. Oh. And 1 dead Primaris Ancient. Oh. There we go. So I've got to get the Imperials to fight back, although the boss knob hasn't fought. Sorry, the boss boy hasn't fought yet, so he gets 3 attacks with his claw. These hit on 4s. 1 hit. Strength is ×2, so strength 8 versus toughness 5 for the Gravis Captain. That's a hit, that's a wound, sorry, and Gravis Captain gets a 2 up save, but this is -3 AP, so 5 up to save. That's not saved. And then there's a 4 up invuln as well, which is saved, so good on him. So Space Marines fighting back. We've got 3 attacks from the Sergeant, and then 2 further attacks, so these are hitting on 3s. So we've got 3 hits, strength 4, toughness 4, 3 wounds, 6 up saves, 3 dead orcs. And then the Gravis Captain fighting back against the boss. So 5 attacks hitting on 2s. That's 5 hits. Here's a strength 4 versus toughness 4. 5 wounds, -3 AP, so can't save. And how many damage? These are 2 damage. So that's 10 wounds against the orcs. That basically means 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That unit is destroyed. So that's the end of the fight phase and the end of turn 2. So we're just going to have a look at tactical objectives for the orcs, and then we'll move into turn. So looking at the tactical objectives for the orcs, actually none of those has been achieved. And bearing in mind we're going into turn 3 where we need to pull 4 cards, we've actually got 5. So this one on the end, Scour the Skies, we can't achieve that because there are no flyers on the Space Marine side. So we're going to turn that one in, which means we are ready to go with 4 cards for the next turn. So currently still on 5 victory points against 4 for the Space Marines. Moving into turn 3 for Space Marines next. Right, so Space Marines movement for turn 3 complete. We've moved the Librarian forward onto this objective. Chaplain and the 5-man tack squad have moved into this building. Sniper stayed where he is. Rhino has tanked it up and over this pipe, just into the middle area there. Dreadnought's moved across to the objective. These guys have moved forwards to just outside of 12 inches distant from the boys over in the middle here, so literally restricts their shooting to the Daka gun. So range wise that's probably the wisest thing to do. Nothing going on here because they're in combat. The Space Marines have moved forwards to support the Reavers. Dreadnought has moved in to replace the Rhino, which has withdrawn back into this space. So the Dreadnought may have more luck in terms of taking some wounds off those killer cans if they get to combat. So that's the end of movement. No, it's not quite. We've just moved the Captain in Terminator armour and the 4 remaining Terminators towards this objective. So moving into psychic phase coming up next. So the Primaris Librarian is going to cast Smite on this boys unit. Goes off on a 5. So that goes off on an 8. The weird boy is in range to deny, so he needs to roll a 9 or higher to deny, which he does. So that is denied. Going to try that again. So Smite on a 6 goes off. I think he can only deny once. Yeah, so the weird boy can only deny 1. So that's D3 mortal wounds for 2. So 2 dead boys. So the other Psyker is miles out of range of anything, so nothing coming from him this turn. So that's the end of Psychic. We're moving into shooting next. Just to recap that as we're in turn 3 now, the cost of all stratagems is now doubled as per the mission rules for strategic deadlock. So we just need to bear that in mind as we go forward. So shooting for Space Marines coming up next. Okay, so this is the Space Marines shooting phase for turn number 3. So first things first, these guys are all out of range or out of line of sight. He's out of range of anything. The sniper is going to take a pot shot at the weird boy. So normally hits on a 3, but weird boy being in or on a building will now hit on a 4. So that is a hit. Strength 4, toughness 4. So that is a wound, and the weird boy has a 6-up save, which he does not save. So the weird boy takes another wound, puts him down to 1 wound. And then we're going to move on to the Stormbolter on the Rhino, which is going to shoot into this squad of boys. So that's 2 shots, hitting on 3s. That's 1 hit, strength 4, toughness 4. That's a wound, 6-up save, not saved. So 1 dead boy. Okay, now we're going to do the bolt rifle on the left-hand lieutenant. The right-hand lieutenant has a bolt pistol, so he's out of range. So this is a 30-inch rapid fire weapon, so 2 shots hitting on 3s. So that's 1 hit, strength 4, toughness 4. That's a wound, and then a 6-up save. 1 more boy gone. Take that one. And then auto storm, bolt storm gauntlets out of range. Then we've got the bolter on this back tactical marine. So that's 1 shot hitting on a 3. That's a hit. 4 to wound. That's a wound. 6 to save. Not saved. That's 1 more boy gone. Okay, and then the only other weapons here that can shoot are the las cannons over the back here. We've got this Rhino with its Stormbolter that can shoot, and then las cannons on the Dreadnought. There's also a heavy bolter on there as well, so we're going to do those next. We'll do the 2 shots from the Stormbolter on the Rhino first, hitting on 3s. It's 1 hit, strength 4. That's not a wound. Okay, and then we'll do the las cannons on the Devastators. So this is 3 shots hitting on 3s, 1 hit. Strength is, so it's hitting wounding on a 3 basically. So that wounds. There is minus AP on this, which the boys can't save against, so that is another dead boy. Take that one. And then the twin las cannons on the Dreadnought. Hit on 3s. That's 1 hit. Wounding on 3s. That's a wound, and again minus AP on that, so that's another dead boy. Let's take that one. And then And then the heavy bolter on the Dreadnought, which is a heavy 3, so he's moved. So this will be hitting on 4s, 2 hits. This is strength 5, so 3s to wound, 1 wound, 6 up save, although heavy bolter has -1 AP, so they can't save, so that's another dead boy. And then finally the heavy bolter in the Devastator squad over the back there. So that is again heavy 3, they haven't moved, so hitting on 3s, 1 hit, strength 4, no wounds. Right, okay, so what else have we got? These are all in combat. These can just about see the left-hand killer can, so we're going to fire. What's line of sight? I think probably only 1 bolter into the left-hand killer can, so that's 1 shot, hitting on a 3, misses anyway. Okay, twin las cannon on the Dreadnought here into this killer can. So that's 2 shots hitting on 3s, that's 2 hits. Twin las cannon is strength 9 versus toughness 5, so 3s to wound. That's 2 wounds, and then -3 AP, so 6 up saves, not saved, and they both cause D6 damage. For 2. Command point reroll. Okay, 2 damage on that end killer can, takes it down to 1 wound. There we go, and then finally Storm Bolter into this killer can. So 2 shots hitting on 3s, 1 hit, strength 4 versus toughness 5, so 5s to wound, no wounds. Righty ho, so that I think is pretty much it, although we've got line of sight through that doorway from the Terminators, so these guys here can actually see the front of that boy squad. So let's have a look at that next. So first of all, we've got 4 Storm Bolter shots. So 3 hits, strength 4, toughness 4, 1 wound, 6 up save, not saved, so 1 more boy gone. And then we have this guy here who has a heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, if that will focus. So that's the only other weapon that can fire. That is heavy 12. Now they have moved, so this is going to be hitting on 4s. Or 8, 12. So 12 shots hitting on 4s. Just cocked. Okay, so that's 5 hits. And this is strength 5, toughness 4, 3s to wound, 3 wounds, and it's -1 AP for 1 damage. So that's 3 damage on this this squad. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is now the end of the Space Marines shooting phase. So we're now looking at the charge phase for the Imperial side. Issues with focus, there we go. So charge phase for Space Marines coming up next. Right, so Space Marines charge phase, looking across the board, there's not much that's in a position to perform a charge. So we've got the tactical squad just here, they're going to charge in to support the Reavers. And then we've got the Dreadnought over here, which is going to charge into the left-hand killer can, the one that's on 1 wound. So, Space Marines first. They're within movement range to get in, but obviously they need to charge. So, they get a 7, so they're in. Let's move those in now. Plant. There we go. So those are all in. And then Dreadnought. So this killer cam with its Daka gun is going to fire Overwatch. So 3 shots. So 1 for Daka. Okay, so only 1 hit. It's a strength 4 versus toughness 5, so 5 to wound. There's a wound, and then a 3-up save. That's saved. So roll for the charge. Gets a 9 easily in. So let's move him in. Make sure he stays an inch away from the other killer can. So that is it for charges for Space Marines. So it's the fight phase coming up next. So at the end of the Space Marine fight phase, this combat in the centre, 2 intercessors gone from these 2 units, and 1 of the knobs gone, only took 1 wound off. In this combat here, no losses on the Space Marine side, however a further 7 Gretchen destroyed in the actual combat phase, and then another 4 fled in morale because they failed the morale check. And finally over on this side, the Dreadnought took 6 wounds off the killer can that only had 1 wound left, but it didn't explode. That's the end of the fight phase. No morale for the Space Marines. So we're moving into Orcs. Turn 3 coming up. We'll just have a quick look at tactical objectives for the Space Marines before we move. So Blood and Guts. Score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the fight phase of this turn. So we've destroyed the killer can. So that one is a score. Defend objective 6. That's right over in the middle there, so we haven't got that one. Domination, score D3 plus 3 victory points if you control every objective marker. Currently we've got 2, currently 2 out of 6, so still quite a way off that one. And then Witch Hunter, score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy Psyker was destroyed. Now we did get the Psyker down to 1 wound left, so we may well pick that one up in the next turn. So that puts us on 5 victory points for the Space Marines, so it's 5 each. However, this is Orcs turn 3 coming up, so they may well push ahead in the next phase, in the next turn. Here we go. Okay, so Orc movement for turn number 3. So Kilcan stayed put, just over an inch away from the Dreadnought. Warbikes have advanced 20 inches just to get into easy charge range of this group of Space Marines. Nothing going on here, they're still in combat. The boys in the middle here and the Pain Boy have just done a standard move, 5 inches, and that is it at the moment. So that's the end of movement. We're just going to roll to see what comes back onto the table. So, Killer Can. No. Gurghal. Yes. Shock attack gun. Yes. Squad of 30 boys. Yes. So that's everything we can re-roll for at the moment. So we've got Gurghal, shock attack gun, and a squad of 30 boys coming back onto the table. So we'll get those deployed and then we will go into the psychic phase. Right, so that's the Orc re-rolls redeployed. So you've got 30 boys and Gurghal just in this central area, and the shock attack gun just on the building next to the Weird Boy. So, psychic phase for Orcs. So, Orcs psychic phase. The Weird Boy is going to cast Smite on the Rhino just over the back there. Goes off on a 6. Excuse me. The Primaris Psyker is within 24 inches, so can deny. And does. Okay. So, I think that's it for psychic. Yeah, I should have remembered that really. Only one psychic power for the weird boy every turn. So we're now moving into orcs shooting, coming up next. Okay, end of the shooting phase. Shock attack gun managed to get in a long range shot and take 2 wounds off of the rhino over the back here. These boys in the middle, these guys, 4 of these guys within range of the Space Marines there, managed to take out 1. The Daka gun on this squad here didn't do any damage. Neither did Gurghal's big shooter. Over on this side, the warbikes can only really see the rhino, but didn't score any hits. And the killer can has managed to take 3 wounds off of the dreadnought with its rocket launcher. So end of the shooting phase, and we're now looking at charges for the orcs. Right, charge phase. The boys here needed an 8 to get into combat. They were going to charge into the Primaris Psyker because he has no ranged weapons. Rolled a 5, are within 6 inches of Gurghal, so re-rolled and got a 6. So failed charge, couldn't make it in. Over on this flank, the warbikes made it in. There's no challenge because these units were all in combat. And then here, the killer can is down to 1 wound after taking some pretty punishing hits from the twin las cannon and the flamer on this dreadnought. So that's it for charges. Combat is coming right up. So at the end of the fight phase, the killer can on 1 wound has managed to knock the dreadnought down to 2 wounds. In this combat, the warbikers managed to do no damage. However, there is 1 less Gretchen in that melee now. And then over in the middle here, 1 knob killed by the Space Marines, but there is literally 1 sergeant left there now. So the rest of the Primaris intercessors have been killed. That's it for combat for the fight phase. So morale next. The only one really I think we need to worry about is that intercessor just there. So we'll roll that and then we'll move into turn number. So that was fortuitous. The intercessor sergeant rolled a 6, having lost 3 other intercessors from that squad. That took him over his leadership, however, with and they shall know no fear being the kind of the ground rule, if you like, for morale for the Space Marines. He managed to save that by rolling a 3, so otherwise he would be off the field. So a quick scan through the orc tactical objectives before we move on to turn 4. So we've got Stump 'em Boys. Score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the fight phase this turn, which didn't quite happen. Got pretty close. Actually, it did happen. I do apologise. There were 2 squads of intercessors right there. There's only 1 sergeant left. So that one has been scored, which is another single victory point for the orcs. Secure objective 3, which is on the other side of the table. So that one hasn't happened. Get 'em, boss. Victory point if an enemy model was slain by your warlord. That did happen. Yes, it did, because no, it didn't. Sorry, I do apologise. Warlord is all the way back over here, so that one didn't happen. And then give them some Daka. Score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the shooting phase this turn, and that didn't quite happen. So 1 extra victory point for the orcs, puts them on 6. And because we are now in turn 4, we're down to 3 tactical objectives per side. So the Space Marines have got Defend objective 6, Domination and Witch Hunter, having achieved Blood and Guts last turn. So 1 victory point, that put them up to 5. So currently they are 1 point behind the orcs going into turn 4.
so still all to play for. Okay, turn 4 coming right up. So at the end of Space Marine's movement for turn 4, just a quick run through objectives. So we should have 4 for this turn. Is that right? 6, 5, 4. No, we should have 3. So we need to turn one of these in. So that one we drew by accident. So we've got defend objective 6, which currently is held by orcs just there. So this central group of Imperial forces have moved forwards. Domination, which is D3 plus 3 victory points if you control every objective marker at the end of the turn. Not going to happen this turn. And Witch Hunter, score 1 victory point if at least one enemy cycle is destroyed. So the Weird Boy's on 1 wound currently, so we're going to try and take him out this turn. So anyway, movement wise, because there's nothing on this side of the battlefield, the heavies have moved forwards. It's unlikely that they'll do much shooting. If they do, it'll literally be shock attack gun, which is the only non-character unit visible currently. Chaplain and tac squad move forward into here. Aldous and his Terminators are now on the objective over on the far side there. Rhino hasn't moved. Devastators haven't moved. As I've already said, these guys have moved forwards to start challenging for objective 6 in turn 5. Still in combat here, still in combat here, still in combat here, and then the Rhino that was over on the right hand flank has just wheeled round onto objective 4, and we'll try and hold that going through turn number 5. So that's the end of Space Marine's movement. Psychic phase is coming up next. So end of the psychic phase. The librarian over on this flank by the objective on the corner there is miles out of range, so nothing he can do this turn. However, the Primaris librarian cast Smite into this boys unit, which failed, didn't go off, rolled a 4, and then rolled Smite again, rolled a 10. The Weird Boy rolled a 6 on his deny roll, so D3 mortal wounds on this unit. So they're now down to 4 boys and the boss. That's it for psychics, so it's shooting phase next. End of Space Marine's shooting phase for turn 4. The heavies over on this side took some pot shots up at the shock attack gun but failed to hit or cause any damage. A few shots also from this unit, from the bolters. Managed to take off 1 wound. The depleted squad of boys that was in the centre by objective 6 has now been destroyed through combined fire from the Rhino and then this central squad here. The Hunter Killer missile on the Rhino, the yellow Rhino, managed to get the shock attack gun down to 1 wound, so very close to being taken off the table. Last cannon fire from over the back here failed to do any damage. There's nothing else that can shoot currently. This Rhino's out of range and out of line of sight of anything that's not already in melee. And then the Terminators over the back here are out of line of sight also. The only thing that hasn't shot is this sniper. Was saving that till last. Sniper is going to shoot at the Weird Boy. So he gets 1 shot. It's heavy. He hasn't moved. He hits on a 3. However, because of cover, he hits on a 4. We've already used 1 command point for Space Marines this turn, and it's a miss. So that is the last shot of the Space Marines shooting phase. So we're now looking at the charge phase. Right, so charge phase, everything over here is too far away. Terminators are too far away. Rhino is too far away. These units are around 9 to 10 inches away from this squad of boys and Gurghal, but tactically charging them is probably the wrong thing to do. I think what we're going to do is sit there and just wait and see whether the orcs charge in their turn, because to tie all of those units up, there's quite a lot of firepower in there, and I think if we save that, if we need it for Overwatch, that will probably be more beneficial than charging in and trying to face down Gurghal in the orc turn.
So we're going to move straight into the fight phase, which is everything over this side. Coming up. End of the Space Marines fight phase, and the last intercessor sergeant has been destroyed by about 15 wounds from the Nob squad just here. They're going to consolidate forwards shortly. The 2 Gretchen and 2 of the Warbikes have been removed from play by the Reavers and the Space Marines. The Reavers have then consolidated over towards the Nobs, although they should have gone the other way because it's the closest enemy unit, isn't it? So they'll have to consolidate into this one. And then the Dreadnought over on this flank took 3 wounds off of the 1 wound Killacan. It exploded, caused a mortal wound, so the Dreadnought is now down to 1 wound, but again he's consolidated towards the closest enemy unit, which is the Warbikes. So that is the end of the Space Marines turn 4. No morale to do this turn, so we're just going to look at objectives, and then we'll go into Orcs for turn 4. So in terms of objectives, nothing scored this turn. Objective 6, still haven't got to that one yet, it's over in the middle there. Domination, D3 plus 3 victory points if you control every objective marker. Currently we've got 4 out of 6. And then finally Witch Hunter, so we're still trying to pick off that weird boy who's still holding on to his final wound. So yeah, we might have to wait until our turn 5 for that one. So still on 5 victory points, and moving into Orcs turn 4 next. Okay, so moving into turn number 4 for the Orcs, looking at our objective cards. We've got secure objective 3. Now objective 3 is all the way over here currently, so it's probably a little bit too far out. Get 'em boss, 1 victory point if an enemy model was slain by your warlord in the fight phase. Now that could happen this turn. Gurghal is there, and we're probably going to be in combat there at some point this turn. And then give them some Daka, score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the shooting phase. So again, we may well be able to score that from one of these units, perhaps the shock attack gun, perhaps this unit, or even Gurghal himself. Not forgetting we've got the Nobs now marauding around over here. So okay, let's get into movement for Orcs for turn number 4. End of Orc movement, and the boys and Gurghal and the Pain Boy have all advanced into the centre here, just getting within easy charge range of the Imperial units. The Nobs have advanced over towards objective 4, so we're looking to engage with the Rhino. No other movement on the table at this time, but then we've just rolled for returning units, and we have a Killacan and a random big mech that was just floating around that I'd forgotten about. So we've got 2 extra units on the table this side, looking at advancing onto objective number 1 potentially, or supporting around this building to try and take out some more Imperial units. So that's it for movement. Looking at Psychic next for the Orcs. Right, so the weird boy cast Smite onto the Gravis Captain in the centre there. The Primaris Librarian attempted to deny and failed. Smite went off on a 5, and the deny roll was only 4. So rolled for mortal wounds and got 3 mortal wounds. The Gravis Captain was only on 2 remaining, and even with his invuln save, he managed to save 1. The other 2 went through, so the Gravis Captain has been killed. That's it for Psychic for the Orcs, so it's shooting next. End of the Orc shooting phase. We'll start over here. So the big shooter on the Killacan on the left managed to deal 1 wound on the Dreadnought, which was here, is on 1 wound left, didn't explode. That one's gone. 1 wound taken off the Rhino over the back here, was on 7, now on 6. And then in the centre, the Gravis Captain has been taken out by shots from this big group of boys. No other damage on these units apart from the librarian, who's now down to 1 wound remaining. But I think that came from the weird boy anyway. Yeah, it did. So that's it for shooting. Going to be looking at the charge phase next. Okay, so charges are all complete. No damage on Overwatch from the Rhino. All of these units and the war boss all made it into combat with no problems. Over here, the Pain Boy has charged into the 2 tactical marines, took a wound on Overwatch, and then this big squad of boys charged into the librarian, who's on 1 wound. Librarian has no ranged weapons, so couldn't fire Overwatch. And finally, Gurghal has charged into the lieutenant in the building. Again, no damage from Overwatch. So that's charges all complete. It's the Orc fight phase just coming up. End of the fight phase for the Orcs. The Warbiker has been vanquished in this unit here with the loss of 1 Reaver. The Rhino right over the back there has been knocked down to 3 wounds, has dealt out no damage in return. And then over in the middle here, the Librarian has been killed, as has 1 of the tactical marines. And the Primaris Lieutenant is down to 1 wound, but he did manage to deal a wound in return to Gurghal. And then the Pain Boy is down to 2 wounds just here. So that is the end of the Orcs turn 4. Just looking at objectives. Give them some DACA. Score 1 victory point if you're... Basically, you can't see that, it's a bit blurry. Score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the shooting phase this turn. So the Gravis captain was killed during the shooting phase. So that gives the Orcs an extra victory point, takes them up to a total of 7. The only one we were close to getting other than that was Get 'em Boss, which is about Gurghal actually killing that Primaris Lieutenant. So we may well get that one next turn, but that's it for the Orcs. So we're moving into turn 5 for the Space Marines. End of the Space Marines movement phase. Reavers and the tactical squad have moved back towards objective 4 and this big blob of knobs. Going to probably countercharge those in the charge phase, we'll see. No movement in the middle here. The Terminators have redeployed with their teleport homer, which was here, so they're within 6 inches, so that now needs to be removed. That has left the Terminator in, the captain in Terminator armour out on his own. However, where he is, he's got line of sight up to the weird boy or through the window to the big squad of boys just over the top there. So some choices for him. Everything else has just moved just to get into better range. This Rhino has just swung around the corner just a touch. So that is it for Space Marines movement. Only 1 Psyker on the board now, who is just there. In terms of range, looking at 18 inches for smite, so he can get a smite into this group of boys or Gurghal, or can just about reach the weird boy. So going to look at that now and try and make a decision in terms of where we want those to go. I think we're probably going to go for Gurghal because he's still quite dangerous on 7 wounds. However, that gives us a victory point as well, so we could get Slay the Warlord if we can get rid of Gurghal. Or not. Let's see. No, we've already got Slay the Warlord, so we can't do that because he's already been off the table once. So I think we're going to go for a smite or 2 on the weird boy. Let's have a look. So smite goes off on a 5 and we get an 8. Can the weird boy deny it? Yes, he can. Smite then goes off on a 6. which it does. Can the weird boy deny it? No, he can't, because he only gets 1 deny per turn. So D3 mortal wounds. He's going to be dead. We get 1. He's on 1 wound, so he is now off the table. That gives us that victory point for Space Marines. Okay, so that's the end of the psychic turn for the Orcs, sorry, for the Space Marines. We're now looking at shooting. So at the end of the shooting phase for Space Marines for turn number 5, pretty much the central area of the table is now cleared. So the Weird Boy and the shock attack gun are gone. The majority of this boy squad are gone. There's only 3 left there. Pretty much everything that could shoot in this central area has shot into that squad and taken out the majority of them in one fell swoop. So combat in the central area should be quite a short and swift affair. So yeah, we're looking at no other shooting available at the moment, so these guys are not able to fire into the combat over there. So yeah, that's it for shooting for Space Marines. Oh no, it's not, I forgot the sniper again. So we've got one lonely sniper up there who's going to shoot at the, yeah, he's going to have to shoot at the boy squad. So it's on a 3. Okay, wounds on a 4, doesn't wound. Okay, so that is the end of shooting. Moving into charges next. Charges all complete, so the Space Marines and the Reavers have made it in over this side. Space Marines rolled a 5 and the Reavers rolled a 12, hence they've circled right the way around to come in from this angle. We've charged the Lieutenant into the Pain Boy. We've also charged the Dreadnought into the boys. No damage on Overwatch. And then the Terminators, all 4 of them have charged into the combat with Gurghal and the other Lieutenant in this building. So these are all in combat as well. So charges are over. Fight phase coming up. End of the Space Marine fight phase. So we've cleared out the Orcs that were left in the middle here. The Lieutenant is gone, but Gurghal is down to 3 wounds. He's taken out one of the Terminators as well. And then over on the very left, not much damage to the knobs. However, the Rhino's down to 1 wound and one of the Space Marines has been taken out. So that's the end of turn 5 for the Space Marines. Let's just have a quick look at objectives. So we had defend objective 6, which we haven't achieved, and Witch Hunter, which was take out the Psyker, which we have achieved. So that puts us up to 6 victory points against 7 for the Orcs. So Orcs turn 5 coming up. Let's see what they can do. Right, so before we head into Orc turn 5, just want a quick recap. So Space Marines heavies, plus the Librarian and Chaplain in Terminator armour, and a 5 squad of tax over this side. Rhino here. Combat going on with Gurghal in the middle here. He's on 3 wounds, potentially in the fight phase. He could be wiped out, we'll see. Heavies over the back there, Rhino in the middle. Big melee going on here with the knobs and the other war boss. 3 Reavers, 4 TAC Marines and a Rhino there. And then right over in this corner, we've got a big mech and a killer can. Now these are the only units that can move in the Orc movement phase. And then at the end of the move phase, we're going to re-roll some units back onto the table, which could cause the Space Marines a lot of problems, depending on how well the Orcs roll. Bearing in mind, currently it's 6 points, 6 victory points for Space Marines and 7 for Orcs. So we're going to get the movement done for these guys and then do the re-rolls.
and then see where we are.
So advance these two. The big mech with a move of 4 got a 1 on his roll, so he's gone 5, taken objective 1. Killer Can with a move of 5 rolled 5, so it's gone 10, just to the corner of this building. Going to check for line of sight, but it looks like he can't see those Marines from here, so probably no shooting in the shooting phase. So we're now going to roll for the units coming back on. So starting with the second Killer Can is not on. Shock attack gun is on. War bikes are on. Weird Boy is on. A few more dice. 20-man boy squad is on. 30-man boy squad is on. 20 Gretchen are not on. And finally Pain Boy, not on. Okay, so that's 50 boys, war bikes, Weird Boy, shock attack, all coming back onto the table. That could be cause for concern. So we're going to get those deployed, and then we'll go into... Right, those units now deployed. War bikes just over on the far right hand corner. Got 2 options really: advance towards the heavies or move towards the Terminator Captain. 30 boys just here, again just over 9 inches away. 20 boys in the middle, just over 9 inches away. Shock attack gun out the back here, and then the Weird Boy is in this building. So that is those units back on the table. Going to look at the psychic phase next, and then we'll be going into shooting. Let's see. Right, so psychic phase over. Weird Boy cast a smite on the tactical sergeant who was at the back of this dreadnought, who was on 1 wound. It went off, so 1 wound minimum caused. He did roll a 1 anyway, but that tactical marine is now off the table. So that's the psychic phase over. Shooting is coming up. Okay, end of the shooting phase is just about here. So these 2 units can't see anything. Front rank of this this unit here fired at the dreadnought, caused no wounds. Shock attack gun fired at the Rhino, missed completely. Dagger gun in this group, the big shooter, shot through that doorway at the end at the tactical squad just there, and missed completely. We've only got now these guys, the knobs, to shoot at that squad of heavies just over the far side there. So we're going to roll for that now, but actually there's only, this guy can't see, these 2 can. So the guy on the right is the boss, he's got 2 guns, and the guy in the middle's got 1. So that's 9 shots going into this squad right here. So that's 9 shots hitting on 5s. Okay, that's not great. There's a Daka in there. Okay, so we get 1 hit, strength 4 versus toughness 4. That does a wound. 3 up save, not saved. Okay, so one of those guys takes a hit, and we're going to take the multi-melter, that one there, because that's the one with the shortest range. Okay, so that's the end of the shooting phase for the orcs. So charge phase is coming up. Okay, end of the orc charge phase. The boys in the centre here have made it into the lieutenant. Pain Boy has followed them up, so they are in successfully. Rolled for a charge for these boys into the captain. He fired Overwatch, 2 hits but no wounds. The boys then subsequently failed their charge. And a mistake on my part, the Warbikers, I've managed to deploy them 13 inches away from the captain, so even if they do roll 12, they can't make it in. So yeah, something to think about next time round. So that's the end of the charge phase. Fight phase is coming up next. end of the fight phase for the Orcs in turn 5. The Primaris Lieutenant is down to 1 wound. Didn't deal any damage in return. Gurghal is still on 3 wounds, has taken 3 wounds off of this Terminator squad. And then over the far side here, the Rhino has been destroyed, didn't explode. 1 Reaver gone, and 1 wound off the War Boss. So just a little bit of consolidation to do over there. And then we'll be looking at whether we're going into turn number 6 or not. Currently, we have got 7 victory points for the Orcs and 6 victory points for the Space Marines. The only way that they can get ahead now is if they can either get Line Breaker or Objective 6, which is right there. So let's have a look. Right, so I've just rolled for turn number 6 and rolled a 4. So on a 3+, the game continues. So we're going into turn 6 for Space Marines coming up next. Right, so as we go into turn number 6 for the Space Marines are on 6 victory points currently, and they have 1 tactical objective left, which is score 2 victory points if you control objective marker 6 at the end of 2 consecutive turns. Now, objective 6 is there. Bearing in mind the game finishes on turn 7, that means we need to get the Space Marines to that objective right now in the move phase in order to hold it for 2 turns. However, there's actually nothing that can get there. That Rhino, there's no way through. This Rhino, there's no way through. The Dreadnought, there's no way through. So we're not in a position actually where we can get to that tactical objective with the setup of the table currently as it is. The Orcs, being on 7 victory points, still have their turn 6 to go. They've got Get 'em Boss, which is score 1 victory point if an enemy model is slain by your Warlord in the fight phase. Now, an enemy model is slain in the fight phase. There's a Terminator there on 1 wound. Gurghal's on 3 wounds. The chances are that he's going to beat that Terminator into the ground, which gives the Orcs an additional victory point, which will then put them on 8 at the end of turn 6. The Space Marines have no way back from there. They're on their last tactical objective in turn 6. At turn 7, they won't have any tactical objective targets left. So that basically means if I resolve that combat right now, that'll tell us if the Orcs end up on 8 or 7 victory points. And we'll then be in a position to declare probably that the Orcs are the winners overall in the Vengeance campaign. So I'm just going to do that now, and then we'll see where we end up. So there you go. Gurghal has taken 3 wounds out of that squad, which had 3 wounds left. He's down to 2 wounds. He gets the victory point. The Orcs go to 8 victory points overall compared to the Space Marines 6. The Space Marines can't come back from that. The maximum they could get is 7. So the campaign ends with an Orc victory, however minor or however marginal it was. Aldous Priamus beams back to Galsize Fury with his tail between his legs. He will be looking to get his revenge on the Screaming Sunz in future years. And we'll move on to the next campaign, which will be a campaign between a faction and a Khorne warband. So that'll be coming up in our next report. That'll be another 5-game campaign. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Apologies for all the mistakes. We're trying to get better as time goes on. I think we're improving slowly. But yeah, it's been great fun. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all soon.